Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment, a turning point, when the strings that once bound you to someone's control begin to fray. You start seeing through the illusion, recognizing that what once felt like admiration was, in truth, a cage of manipulation. And when the narcissist senses that grip slipping, an unsettling transformation begins. At first, they may try to charm you back. Sweet words, old memories, promises of change, all woven into a net designed to pull you in once more. But if that fails, the mask cracks. The warmth turns cold, and their desperation grows. Suddenly, you're no longer their cherished confidant, but their greatest disappointment. Then comes the retaliation. Some withdraw into silence, making you question if you were too harsh. Others lash out, rewriting the story so that they are the victim and you the villain. They seek validation from others, spreading carefully crafted narratives, hoping to turn allies against you. But here's what they fear most: your freedom. Not just your absence, but the realization that you never needed them in the first place. Because, when you step away, something remarkable happens. The doubts fade, the weight lifts, and you remember who you were before their influence took hold. And in that moment, the power shifts, not to them, but to you. So if you ever find yourself at this crossroads, wondering whether to go back or break free, remember this: the moment they lose control over you is the moment you reclaim control over yourself, and that is a moment worth embracing. The mask slips. There is something fascinating about the way people present themselves to the world. Some wear their truth openly, unafraid of their imperfections, while others craft an illusion, an identity carefully constructed to manipulate, to charm, and, most importantly, to control. This is the mask of a narcissist. It is polished, persuasive, and designed to captivate. But what happens when that mask begins to slip? At first, the illusion feels real. The narcissist appears confident, charismatic, and in many cases even admirable. They are skilled at reading people, understanding their weaknesses, and mirroring exactly what someone wants to see in them. They can make you feel special, understood, and valued in ways that seem almost too good to be true. And that's because it is. Their affection, praise, and attention all serve a single purpose: to establish control. As long as you remain within their grasp, playing the role they have assigned to you, their mask stays firmly in place. They are the kind friend, the supportive partner, the wise mentor, or even the selfless leader. But the moment you begin to step out of their control, whether by questioning their actions, setting boundaries, or simply choosing independence, something changes. The mask starts to crack. You may first notice subtle shifts in their demeanor. The warm and encouraging words that once felt so reassuring become laced with condescension or passive aggression. Where once there was admiration, there is now irritation. The charm that once felt effortless now seems strained. It is in these moments that you begin to realize that the person you thought you knew was, in fact, an actor playing a role. And the role was never about love or friendship. It was about keeping you in a place where they held power over you. But why does this happen? Why can't they simply accept your independence, your growth, your decision to step away? The answer lies in the very foundation of their personality. A narcissist's sense of self is fragile, dependent entirely on external validation. They do not build their confidence from within. Instead, they rely on the control they have over others to fuel their self-worth. When you begin to withdraw from their influence, it threatens this false sense of superiority. They no longer feel admired, respected, or, worst of all, needed. And for them, that loss is intolerable. At this stage, their behavior may become unpredictable. Some will attempt to reclaim control by reverting to their old tactics: flattery, gifts, exaggerated apologies, and grand gestures of affection. They may try to convince you that you misunderstood them, or that things were never as bad as they seemed. They will paint a picture of a future where everything will be different, as long as you stay. But if that fails, the mask will fall further. They may become dismissive, cruel, or even vengeful. Accusations, guilt-tripping, and silent treatment replace the once flowing praise. They may seek to damage your reputation, turning mutual friends or colleagues against you. They may even attempt to rewrite history, portraying themselves as the victim while casting you as the villain. It is all part of their desperate attempt to regain the control they are losing. Yet here is the most important truth. When their mask slips, it is not a loss for you. It is a revelation. It is the moment you finally see them for who they are, without the illusion clouding your judgment. It is the first step toward freedom, the realization that their power was never real. It was borrowed, given to them by your willingness to believe in the illusion. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. The desperate tactics. When a narcissist begins to lose control over you, they do not simply let go, they fight. Not in a way that is always obvious, but in a way that is calculated, persistent, and emotionally exhausting. Their sense of power depends on your submission, and when that power is threatened, they resort to a variety of desperate tactics to pull you back in. At first, they may try the most familiar and effective strategy: charm. They remind you of the good times, shower you with compliments, and suddenly become everything you ever wanted them to be. If they were once cold, they now radiate warmth. If they were once dismissive, they now hang on to your every word. They promise change, hint at self-awareness, and swear that this time will be different. It is a carefully orchestrated performance, designed not out of love, but out of necessity. Because losing you means losing the validation that fuels their fragile ego. But what if you resist? What if you see through the act and refuse to be drawn back into their world? That is when the tactics shift. If admiration no longer works, guilt becomes their next weapon. They remind you of all they have done for you, painting themselves as the selfless figure who has sacrificed so much for your happiness. They emphasize your flaws, your mistakes, and all the ways in which you have let them down. They might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me." Or, "I never thought you would be the one to hurt me like this." Their words are carefully chosen, designed to make you question yourself and, more importantly, your decision to walk away. If guilt doesn't succeed, then fear often follows. The narcissist understands that uncertainty is a powerful tool. They may attempt to make you doubt your ability to function without them. "You'll never find someone who understands you like I do." Or, "You think life will be better without me? You have no idea what you're walking into." These statements are not reflections of reality. They are echoes of their own insecurity, projected onto you in an attempt to keep you trapped in their world. And then comes one of their most manipulative tactics: the role of the victim. They rewrite the story, positioning themselves as the one who has been wronged. They may shed tears, express heartbreak, and claim that your decision has left them devastated. To outsiders, they craft an image of themselves as the wounded soul who only ever wanted the best for you. They seek sympathy, not because they are truly hurt, but because sympathy gives them leverage. If they can convince you, or those around you, that they are the real victim, they regain control over the narrative. But perhaps the most alarming tactic is when all else fails and they resort to hostility. They may become cruel, turning to insults, passive aggression, or even full-fledged attempts to damage your reputation. The person who once showered you with admiration now treats you with cold indifference or explosive anger. They may spread rumors, distort the truth, or attempt to turn mutual friends or colleagues against you. This is a final, desperate attempt to make you feel isolated, to punish you for stepping out of their control. Yet, despite all these tactics, there is one truth they cannot escape. Their power only exists as long as you allow it. The moment you stop responding, stop engaging, and refuse to be drawn back into their cycle, their control crumbles. The desperation you witness is not a reflection of their love, but of their fear. The fear of losing the influence they once had over you. And when you recognize that, you reclaim your strength, your liberation, and their fear. There is a moment in every journey toward freedom when you realize that you are no longer bound by the expectations, demands, or emotional manipulations of someone else. It may not come suddenly, it may creep in like the first light of dawn, quiet but undeniable. You wake up one day, and the weight that once pressed against your chest feels lighter. The doubts that once clouded your mind begin to clear. You are free. But for the narcissist who once controlled you, that freedom is not just a loss, it is a nightmare. A narcissist's sense of self is built upon the control they have over others. They thrive on admiration, obedience, and influence. Your presence in their life was not just about companionship or connection, it was about validation. Every time you sought their approval, every time you adjusted your behavior to avoid upsetting them, you unknowingly reinforced their sense of superiority. They needed you to play your role so they could maintain the illusion of power. But what happens when you step outside of that role? When you no longer seek their validation? When their words no longer dictate your emotions? That is when the real shift occurs. The moment they realize that they are no longer the center of your world, they panic, not because they love you, but because they fear irrelevance. This fear manifests in many ways. Some narcissists respond with desperate attempts to pull you back in, grand gestures, empty apologies, and promises of change. Others take a more destructive path, trying to undermine your confidence by making you question your choices. But the most revealing reaction is their anger. Because beneath that anger is fear, the fear of losing the control they once had over you. You may notice that they suddenly become obsessed with proving that they no longer care. They might flaunt new relationships, exaggerated successes, or a seemingly indifferent attitude. But if you look closely, you will see the cracks in the performance. Because deep down they are not moving on, they are reacting. Every action is designed to provoke a response from you, to test whether they still have the ability to affect your emotions. This is where your true liberation is tested. It is easy to fall into old patterns, to feel the urge to defend yourself, to prove something, or to seek closure. But real freedom comes not from engaging, but from walking away. When you stop reacting, when you no longer seek their approval or feel the need to explain yourself, you take away the very thing they relied on, control. And that is what terrifies them the most. Your liberation is not just about leaving, it is about reclaiming your own mind, your own choices, and your own happiness. It is about realizing that you never needed their validation in the first place. It is about recognizing that your worth was never tied to their approval. The moment you step into this understanding, their fear becomes powerless, because their control only ever worked as long as you believed in it. So, if you find yourself at this crossroads, if you feel the weight of their anger, manipulation, or attempts to pull you back in, remember this: their fear is not your burden to carry. Their reaction is not your responsibility. The only thing that matters is your freedom, your peace, and the knowledge that you are finally living on your own terms. And in that, you have already won. Their rage and retaliation. When a narcissist realizes they have lost control over you, their desperation often turns into something darker: rage and retaliation. It is a final, desperate attempt to reassert their dominance, to remind you and everyone around them that they are not the ones who lost, but rather the ones who were wronged. The intensity of their reaction depends on how much power they once held over you. But one thing remains constant: they do not accept defeat gracefully. At first, their anger may be subtle. They might withdraw, offering you the silent treatment as a way of making you question your decision. It is their way of saying, "You don't deserve my attention anymore," hoping that the sudden coldness will make you seek their approval once again. But when they see that you are unmoved by their silence, the game changes. They begin to rewrite the narrative. Suddenly, you are no longer the person they once praised. You are now selfish, disloyal, or even cruel. They twist past events, painting themselves as the victim of your so-called betrayal. They spread misinformation, exaggerate their suffering, and, in some cases, completely fabricate stories to gain sympathy. To those who don't know the full truth, their words can be persuasive. After all, they have spent a lifetime mastering the art of deception. Then comes the direct attacks. They may insult you, sometimes publicly, sometimes in ways so subtle that only you can recognize the intent. They might undermine your reputation, trying to turn mutual friends, colleagues, or even family members against you. Their goal is simple: if they can no longer control you, they will try to control how others see you. And if they cannot convince you to come back, they will attempt to make you regret leaving. In some cases, the rage takes an even more personal turn. They may try to sabotage aspects of your life, your career, your friendships, even your sense of self-worth. They will remind you of your past mistakes, highlighting every flaw they can find, hoping to shake your confidence. If they once built you up, they will now work just as hard to tear you down. But here is what they fail to understand: their anger is proof of your strength. If you were truly insignificant to them, if you never mattered, they would not fight this hard to pull you back in or punish you for leaving. Their rage is not about you. It is about their own inability to accept that they are no longer in control. So how do you respond? The answer is simple: you don't. Engaging with their anger, defending yourself against their accusations, or trying to correct their version of events only gives them what they want: your attention, your energy, your emotional investment. Instead, the most powerful response is silence, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, because nothing frustrates a narcissist more than realizing that their words and actions no longer have an effect on you. Over time, their anger will fade, not because they have changed, but because they will move on to someone else who can provide the control and validation they crave. And when that happens, you will see their retaliation for what it truly was: not a reflection of your worth, but a desperate attempt to hold on to the power they once had. Their rage is temporary, but your freedom is permanent. And that is the greatest victory of all: your strength and newfound freedom. There is a moment in every journey of self-liberation when you realize something profound. The weight you once carried is gone. The self-doubt, the endless need for approval, the constant fear of upsetting someone who never truly valued you. All of it fades into the past. You have stepped out of the shadow of manipulation, and in doing so you have found something priceless: your own strength. But freedom is not just about walking away. It is about rediscovering yourself in the aftermath of control. It is about unlearning the habits of self-censorship, of second-guessing every decision, of constantly wondering if you are enough. Because the truth is, you always were. The narcissist did not give you value. They only made you believe that your value depended on their approval. And now, without them, you are finally free to see yourself as you truly are, strong, capable, and whole. At first, this freedom may feel unfamiliar. After spending so much time being conditioned to seek validation, the silence can be unsettling. You may even feel the urge to check if they still care, if they are still thinking about you, or if they have moved on. But here's the truth. Their presence or absence no longer defines you. Their reaction or lack of one does not change the fact that you chose yourself. And that choice is the most powerful thing you have ever done. With freedom comes healing, but healing is not always a straight path. There will be days when doubt creeps in, when the past whispers that maybe you were too harsh, too impulsive, or too sensitive. Those are the moments when you must remind yourself why you left, why you chose to break free, and why your peace is worth more than their approval. One of the most empowering realizations you will have is that their power was always an illusion. It was never real. They controlled you not because they were strong, but because they convinced you that you were weak. But now you see the truth. You were never weak. You were simply made to believe you were. And now you stand unshaken, no longer seeking validation from a person who thrived on your insecurity. The best part? Life begins to open up in ways you never imagined. You rediscover laughter that is genuine, friendships that are nurturing, and dreams that were once put on hold. You begin to trust yourself again, knowing that your worth does not come from anyone else's perception, but from within. The moments of self-doubt grow smaller, and the moments of confidence grow stronger. And as you step forward, you realize something even more profound. You are not just surviving, you are thriving. You are no longer reacting to someone else's manipulation, no longer adjusting your life to fit their expectations. You are finally living on your own terms. And that, more than anything, is what true freedom looks like. So if you ever wonder whether you made the right choice, whether walking away was worth it, look at yourself now. Look at the strength you have built, the peace you have reclaimed, and the life you are now creating, one that is no longer controlled by fear, but by self-respect and inner peace. And if the narcissist ever looks back, wondering if they still have power over you, let your silence be the answer. Because your greatest victory is not proving them wrong. It is proving to yourself that you never needed them in the first place. You are free, and that is all that matters.